We spend so much time uh, obsessed with the idea of time travel, like building some machine to take us back.
Right.
But the reality is, we're already time travelers. The problem is we're stuck in reverse.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. We're physically here right now, but mentally,
Mentally and culturally, we are constantly dragging this like heavy, rotting luggage of the past into our daily
it's
lives.
exhausting.
It really is. So today, we're doing a deep dive into an incredibly provocative and frankly, controversial translated discourse from Osho about living in the present.
And just to clarify for everyone listening, we aren't here to, you know, endorse the man or validate his broader worldview.
No, not at all. We're just impartially looking at the text. But the specific psychological mirror held up to society and these ideas is, well, it's impossible to ignore. Because we're going to figure out why dragging the past into today isn't just inefficient, it's a recipe for absolute misery. Welcome to today's deep dive.
Thanks for having me. It's
Yeah.
a fascinating exploration because the source material targets the very foundation of why we cling to old traditions. It argues that we cause ourselves an immense amount of self-inflicted pain simply because we refuse to acknowledge a basic law of physics and sociology, which is that time changes.
Right. It's inevitable.
Exactly. And if time changes, the values of life, the rules we play by, they must inevitably change alongside it.
Okay, let's unpack this. There is a core paradox presented right out of the gate in this text. Existence, like the fundamental reality of being alive, is always happening right now.
Always.
The present moment is equated with godliness itself in the discourse. It's the only place where anything real actually occurs. Yet we as human beings seem biologically and socially wired to obsess over what happened yesterday.
Which, according to the source, is the exact root of human suffering. When you sever your connection with the present moment, you are essentially creating a literal psychological hell for yourself.
A self-made hell.
Right. Think about the mechanics of it. If reality only exists in the now and your mind is entirely preoccupied with a shout, then that is completely gone. You are living in a phantom zone.
Wow.
You're missing out on the only tangible connection to life you actually possess. The argument here is that anything born in time is bound by the laws of time, which means it's bound to change. It's a cosmic inevitability.
But, if living in the present is the only way to actually experience life, why are we so completely terrified of letting go of old values? Why do we hold on so tightly?
Well, because the past is predictable. The past has already happened, so it feels safe. The present requires constant adaptation, and honestly, human beings find adaptation exhausting.
We really do.
But the core argument we are dissecting today is that what was a profound moral right yesterday might be a catastrophic moral wrong today.
And there's this brilliant historical example of this in the text regarding the ancient Vedic sages. If you go back to antiquity, the absolute ultimate blessing a sage could bestow upon a newly married couple was, may you have many children.
Right, which sounds nice to us, but back then it was so much more than that.
Exactly. If you actually look at the mechanics of ancient life, that wasn't just a nice spiritual sentiment, it was vital.
Precisely. During the era of those ancient sages, the environment dictated the morality. Land was incredibly plentiful, vast expanses of the earth were entirely empty, and the human population was, well, incredibly small.
And mortality rates were staggeringly high.
Yeah, exactly. The literal survival of a community depended on constant aggressive growth. That blessing wasn't arbitrary. It was born out of the absolute practical need of the hour.
It's like running a software update.
Oh, I like that.
It's a compatibility issue, right? The old code, that specific blessing, was perfect for an ancient operating system. It relied on variables that existed then, like infinite land and low population density. But if you try to run that exact same code on today's hardware, it crashes the entire computer.
It totally crashes.
Because the code hasn't changed, but the environment has completely transformed. Today, the Earth is massively overburdened. We are facing severe consequences from overpopulation. So running that old code today makes it incredibly dangerous.
It does. The text points out that giving that exact same blessing today transforms it from a divine gift into a literal curse upon the planet.
Right.
The argument is that the new moral blessing should actually be, may you not have children at all.
Yeah.
But, when you suggest that morality should update like a piece of software, people experience profound existential panic.
Totally, because we are taught that morality is absolute and unchanging. When the environment forces a shift, people completely freak out.
They do.
Take the anxiety around birth control. The discourse notes that people clinging to old traditions get incredibly distressed, asking things like, isn't birth control a form of violence? What happens to the souls that are waiting to be born? Aren't we effectively killing them by closing the door?
What's fascinating here is the cosmic counter-argument to that specific anxiety.
Yeah, this part blew my mind.
Right. Because scientists estimate there are at least 50,000 other planets out there capable of sustaining life. 50,000.
That's a lot of doors.
Exactly. So the question the source poses back to the anxious believer is, do you honestly think Earth is the only door in the entire universe? Have humans arrogantly taken on the sole responsibility for birthing every soul in the cosmos?
I have to admit, though, I'm struggling with the logic there a bit.
How so?
I mean, wait, practically speaking, telling someone, don't worry, alien babies are being born on other planets, isn't exactly going to soothe a person going through a deep, personal, moral crisis about using birth control today.
Sure.
How does that actually bridge the gap for someone terrified of breaking a sacred rule?
Well, it's not meant to be literal cosmological advice. It's a philosophical shock tactic.
Yeah.
The point is to highlight the sheer arrogance of human dogma.
Okay, I see.
The underlying message is, stop trying to solve the divine's problems. If there is a universe or a higher power running this immense, unimaginably vast show, it can handle a few unborn souls. The universe isn't going to collapse because you decided to use family planning.
Right. You just need to solve your own problems.
Exactly. The problem is that people use these massive, unanswerable theological questions as a smokescreen. They ask these anxious questions simply because they desperately want to justify remaining hooked to the old concepts, even when everything in their immediate, tangible environment has changed.
They want the illusion of control.
Exactly. They'd rather worry about hypothetical souls in the ether than deal with the very real problem of a starving, overpopulated planet right in front of them.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the discussion doesn't just stay in this lofty cosmic realm. It comes crashing down into the everyday absurdity of how fast our social norms shift. And it uses humor to disarm the listener's resistance to change.
Yeah. The humor in this text is surprisingly sharp.
It is. There are these two bizarre, funny stories used to illustrate the point. The first one involves this character, Mullah Nasruddin. He's walking down the street, and he sees a beautiful girl approaching. Being a traditional, polite poet, he looks down and completely ignores her out of shyness and respect.
Which is the moral expectation of his time.
Exactly. But the girl gets furiously, violently angry.
She starts screaming for the townspeople to come and help her, right?
Yes, because he didn't tease her. She's standing there completely outraged, complaining, do I look like his mother?
It's so funny because it completely shatters the expectation of what is considered polite or offensive.
He thought he was following the moral code of respect, and she perceived it as an ultimate insult. And then there's the second story, which is even better. It's about a wealthy merchant named Kishori Rahman. His wife gets kidnapped. He gets the ransom note. They demand 1 kilogram of gold, but the twist is completely inverted.
The kidnappers don't say, pay us or you'll never see her again.
No. The note says, if you do not pay the gold, your wife will be returned to you safely.
It's completely absurd. But why do you think humor is such an effective tool here? Like, what is the mechanism behind these jokes?
I think it's because humor bypasses our defensive walls. If you just lecture someone about how their culture is outdated, they cross their arms and get defensive.
Right, they shut down.
But a joke forces you to see the inversion of reality. It shows that change is what keeps life fresh, new, and joyful. If you don't allow old concepts to drop away and new ones to wash in, things get weird.
That's the perfect way to phrase it. It's about the natural flow of water. If we connect this to the bigger picture for you listening, holding on to old values without continually questioning their current utility is what makes a culture stagnant.
Yeah.
The imagery used in the text is visceral words like dirty and rotten. Think about a river. When a society refuses to let new concepts wash in, the water stops flowing. The river becomes a swamp, and nothing healthy grows in a swamp.
Which leads right into a brutal critique of cultures that refuse to accept this flow. What happens when an entire society decides to become a swamp? There's a specific reference to the country of India here, though honestly, this applies universally to any overly nostalgic culture in the world.
Oh, absolutely.
The society is described as a dead graveyard, a massive crematorium.
The psychological trap of nostalgia is incredibly powerful. The culture becomes obsessed with a mythical golden era like the ancient rule of Rama in this context.
Right.
There's this heavy, pervasive cultural belief that all the great things, the age of truthfulness and pure morality, have already happened in the distant past.
And the consequence of that golden age thinking is paralysis. If you truly believe the best of humanity is thousands of years behind you, what is there left to do today? You just sit around.
You do nothing.
There's this vivid image of saints sitting by a smoke fire, like yogis doing penance in a literal crematorium, thinking there's nothing to do but chant and drag around the stinking dead bodies of tradition. Why? Not because those traditions help anyone today, but simply because they belong to their ancestors.
They decorate dead habits.
Exactly. And honestly, I have to stop and ask you, the listener, directly right now. How often do you do this in your own life? How often do you decorate a dead habit at your job or in your relationships just because you've always done it that way?
It's a very confronting question. And the delusion required to maintain that graveyard mindset is perfectly captured in a brilliantly crude parable from the text about two Californian hippies.
Oh man, this story.
Right. They're walking down a long road together, and for a solid mile, one of them is complaining about a terrible smell. He's gagging, and he finally turns to his friend and asks, "Have you soiled your pants? The smell is following us."
And the friend completely stubbornly denies it. No, absolutely not.
He refuses to admit reality.
Yeah.
But the first guy won't let it go because the evidence is overpowering. He physically forces his friend to take off his pants, and of course, there's the undeniable, messy reality right there. He has, in fact, soiled himself.
Yeah.
But the punchline, the excuse the friend uses, is what's brilliant. He looks at the mess and says, "Oh, I thought you were asking about today. I haven't done it today."
That is absolutely wild. It's hilarious, but it perfectly explains the delusion of nostalgia.
It really does. It illustrates the sheer delusion required to ignore the messes of the past. A culture that only looks backward, that insists everything important happened yesterday, is essentially walking around soiled.
Yeah.
They are pretending the smell isn't ruining the present moment simply because the initial act happened in the past. They completely divorce themselves from the reality of today so they don't have to take responsibility for cleaning up the mess.
Okay, so we've talked about this on a broad cultural level. But let's zoom in on what happens when this mindset infects specific, rigid religious dogma. Because even the most well-intentioned sacred rules become actively, physically harmful when they are completely divorced from their original context. There's an incredible case study here regarding Mahavira and the Jaina monks.
Right. Mahavira was an ancient, highly revered spiritual teacher. And one of his core instructions to his monks was that they must walk barefoot.
But you have to look at the why. You can't just look at the rule. You have to look at the environment that necessitated the rule.
Exactly.
In ancient times, shoes were made exclusively of leather. To wear leather meant you had to kill an animal, which directly violated their absolute core principle of nonviolence. Furthermore, the roads back then weren't paved. They were just open, muddy ground. Walking barefoot on mud was actually considered healthy. Mud meets mud. It made perfect sense for that specific time and place.
The rule was a highly rational, ethical response to the technological and environmental constraints of antiquity. The intent was nonviolence. The method was walking barefoot.
But look at the monks today. They are still walking barefoot. Except now they aren't walking on cool mud. They are walking on burning hot coal tar and searing cement roads in the dead of summer. They are getting horrific, agonizing blisters on their feet.
That's brutal.
I mean, I have to stop and push back on the sheer stubbornness of this. It actually makes me angry. Today, we have canvas. We have cloth shoes. We have rubber soles. There is zero violence against animals involved in manufacturing a canvas shoe.
Not at all.
Yet you have monks who will literally tear up pieces of cloth and tie them around their bleeding, blistered feet to make makeshift bandages, but they absolutely refuse to just wear a cloth shoe. Why? Simply because the specific words cloth shoe are not written in their ancient scriptures.
They are choosing the letter of the law over the spirit of the law. They are committing an act of violence against their own bodies in a misguided attempt to honor a rule about nonviolence.
Exactly. It's complete cognitive dissonance. And it raises a central critical question. Do the scriptures belong to us, or do we belong to the scriptures?
This raises an important question, yes, because it points out the absurdity using one final story from the source. It's Mullah Nasiruddin again. A couple knocks on his front door one afternoon. The door opens, and Mullah is standing there, completely naked.
Which is quite the greeting.
Oh, it gets better. He's completely naked, except he's wearing a pair of formal shoes, a necktie, and a hat.
Just standing in his living room.
Right. The couple comes inside, they sit down, and they are totally bewildered. Finally, the wife can't take the awkwardness anymore and asks, "Mullah, why are you sitting around naked?" Mullah calmly explains that it's his leisure time, no one usually comes by, and he finds clothes tight, restrictive, and uncomfortable.
Which honestly is a completely logical reason to be naked in the privacy of your own home. If you want to be comfortable, be comfortable.
Exactly. It's rational for his immediate environment. But then the wife points to his head and feet and asks, okay, but if you want to be comfortable, why are you wearing the shoes, the tie, and the hat? And Mullah replies completely seriously, oh, these are just in case someone happens to come by.
So he is voluntarily wearing the most uncomfortable, restrictive, formal accessories imaginable for a hypothetical future scenario, while actively trying to be comfortable in the present moment.
It's a hilarious, perfectly crafted contradiction. And the lesson synthesizes this absurdity directly back to Mahavira and the blistered monks on the tar road.
Yeah.
The conclusion is absolute. If Mahavira returned to Earth today, he would absolutely wear shoes.
Without a doubt. A canvas shoe or a rubber sandal, he would look at the tar road and adapt instantly.
Or perhaps he'd wear a non-violent Japanese hat made of bamboo to block the sun.
Yeah.
The point is, a truly enlightened mind adapts. Because biologically and sociologically, only species and people who adapt with the changing times actually survive. Scriptures can't stop us. If they don't reflect the present reality, we must rewrite them.
Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway of this entire exploration. Look around us. Right now, today, we have the science, we have the technology, we have the accumulated resources and the understanding to turn this Earth into an absolute paradise.
We really do.
But we are tying ourselves to a self-inflicted hell by desperately clinging to outdated concepts. We are letting the literal dead bodies of ancient traditions dictate how we use the unprecedented tools of the present.
We are letting ghosts run the machinery of the future.
So we have to ask you, the listener, to look at your own life. Look at the rules you blindly follow. Where in your own daily routine are you needlessly walking barefoot on a burning hot tar road?
What traditions or old societal beliefs are giving you blisters simply because you refuse to put on a modern canvas shoe?
Exactly. And I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to mull over on your own. We've spent this whole time criticizing the past, but let's flip it. Think about the most cutting-edge, progressive, highly enlightened values or technologies you hold dear right now in the year 2026.
The things you're certain are right.
Exactly. Now fast forward 500 years. Imagine your descendants in the year 2526. Will they be getting metaphorical blisters, stubbornly clinging to your 2026 ideals simply because you forgot to tell them that they too are allowed to evolve? Think about that. Keep questioning the rules, keep updating your software, and above all, keep living in the present. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.